doing good. So nice to see you. Me too. Want to wish everybody Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We have special and familiar guests with us. Ducky and Tamar are back in the sanctuary, and we really appreciate that. So, without further ado, I'm going to begin preliminary services, and that begins on page 65 with Berachot HaShachar. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sech v'bina, l'avchi b'nim u'v'layla. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sh'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sh'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, sh'asani ben chorim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, bokeach livrim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, ma'bi sharumim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, zogim gevufim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, roch ha'aretz al ha'mayim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechi mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher Yisrael b'divara. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten le'ayv goach. Let's see. Now we'll continue on page 72 with the Psalm for Shabbat. And let us join together the last four lines of the page. Tzadik Adam ha'yivra, ki eretz v'levanon, yizgah shetulim, beveit Adonai, bechadrod Eloheinu, Continue now on page 81 with Psalm 30. Let us do this responsively. The Psalm of David, a song for the dedication of the temple.
Extol you, Adonai, you raised me up. You did not permit foes to rejoice over me.
Adonai, I cried out and you healed me. You saved me from the pit of death.
Sing to Adonai, you're faithful. Acclaim God's holiness.
God's anger lasts a moment. Divine love is lifelong. Tears may linger for a night. Joy comes with the dawn.
While at ease I once thought, nothing can shake my security. Favor me, and I am a mountain of strength. Hide your face, Adonai, and I am terrified.
To you, Adonai, would I call. Before the eternal would I plead.
What profit is there if I am silent? What benefit if I go to my grave? Will the dust praise you? Will it proclaim your faithfulness?
Hear me, Adonai. Be gracious. Be my help.
You transform my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robe of joy, that I might sing your praise unceasingly, that I might thank you, Adonai, my God, forever.
הפך למספרית מלכולי, פיתח דסה כבדס ונשמחה, למד נזמך חבא בלא ידום. אדוני אלוהי, ללמודך. How many people do we have outside? I think Lewis is out there, right? Okay, so we're just, I think, with one shot. Oh, there's two. Okay, so we have a minion then. If anyone was reciting Mourner's Kaddish on page 82, I think I'll do the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Bi'alma divrach dirutei v'yamlich machutei v'chayichon v'yomechon v'chayid d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala v'isman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudisha rechu le'ela min kol birachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'olma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. I now invite you to rise, page 83 from Baruch She'amar. Baruch She'amar v'haya olam Baruch Hu Baruch Ozeh v'rishit Baruch Omer v'Ozeh Baruch Ozeh u'mekayem Baruch merachim al haaretz Baruch merachim al habriyot Baruch b'shalem saradav l'reyav Baruch Elad v'kayam lanetzach Baruch b'hodeh u'matzil Baruch Shemo Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam ha'el ha'v'rachaman Amula b'fi amo mishubach u'mfo'ar b'lshon chasidav v'avadav v'shirei David avdecha nalelcha Adonai Eloheinu v'yishbachot v'zmirot negadelcha neshabechacha naba'ercha v'nazkir shimcha v'namlichacha malkeinu Eloheinu yachid ch'olamim melech mishubach u'mfo'ar adei ad shmo hagadol Baruch Atah Adonai melech b'tishbachah. We continue now together on the bottom of page 85 with this version of Romimu. Romimu, Romimu, Adonai Eloheinu, V'yishtachavu, V'yishtachavu, L'hadom raglav kadoshu, Romimu, Romimu, Adonai Eloheinu, V'yishtachavu, V'yishtachavu, L'har Godshah, Ki Kadosh, Ki Kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu, ya la 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 la. Hey! Very good. Continue on page 86, the middle of the page, with this familiar song. Hoshia et amecha, uvarech et nagaladecha, L'reim, 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 v'nasim, l'reim, v'nasim ad ha'olam. Shia et amecha, uvarech et nagaladecha, l'reim, 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 v'nasim, l'reim, v'nasim ad ha'olam. Please join me now on page 88, Psalm 34, as we sing from this acrostic psalm some familiar highlights. On the Gimel, let's sing together. Galil Adonai iti, v'nirhomim Hashem ho'yachdav. One of my favorite melodies in all of the Jewish prayer on the Yud. Yiru et Adonai ki doshav ki ein machzor liregav kefirim rahashu v'rahevel v'dorshei Adonai yolachu chodov. We drop down now to the Mem, and we sing this popular song from Israel. It became popular many years ago. Mi ha'ish echafet chayim ohev yamim lirato nitzar lejan chameira uzvadecha medaber mima Sor me'ra ve'azedo, b'gi shalom ve'rad ve'hu. Mi ha'ish echavet chayim. Ohev yamim lirado. And now we'll continue on page 92. I invite you to rise, and this morning we're going to do the first line, and then the fifth stanza, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, le gozer, and then we'll finish with the last 4 lines. We go like this. O du l'Adonai ki tov ki le'olam chazdo v'gozer yam suf li gezarim ki le'olam chazdo v'hever Yisrael b'tocho ki le'olam chazdo v'niher baro v'chelo v'yam suf ki le'olam chazdo Shebishifleinu zachar lanu ki le'olam chazdo vayivrekeinu mitzareinu ki le'olam chazdo Nodei lechem lecho bazar ki le'olam chazdo Adelel hashamayim ki le'olam chazdo. Be seated. Now at this time in our tefillah, we turn again to Psalm 92 on page 94, and this time we'll sing from the top of the page. Mizmor shili yom hashabbat tov lehodol lehodol Adonai ulizamer leshimcha elyon ulizamer leshimcha elyon Mizmor shili yom hashabbat tov lehodol lehodol Adonai ulizamer leshimcha elyon ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, למנעתך בלילות, הלי יחסור והלי נבל, הלי היגיון בכינור, מזמור שלי יום השבת, מזמור שלי יום השבת טוב להודות, לאדוני ולזמר לשמך העליון. ותנוזון מסביבה, שירים רעים יהיו, Vagid Yasha Adonai, Tzriv L'Avlataba. We turn now to page 96. I think we have time for a nice responsive rendition of the Ashrei. Ashrei Yoshvi Vehitechka Odi Hallelu Chasehela Ashrei Yam Shegacha Halo Tila David, Arabi Macha Elohai HaMelech Avrach Shimcha Le'olam Ba'ed Kol Yom Avartecha Gadol Adonai Mehulam Yod Veligdlado Ein Reger V'adagiv V'adadecha V'divrei Nivladecha Hazicha Zecher of Duvraya Bi Betkid Yadecha Iraninu Tov Adonai La'ago Veracham Aval Kol Ma'azal Kivon Malachudecha Yom Heru Govuradecha Yidabehero Malachudecha Malchudecha Lamim Umem Zadecha Bechador Vador Hine Chlelecha Yisabiru Vatanotin Lahem Edach Lamito Tzaddik Adonai Bechadiracha V'chasid B'chol Ma'azav Ritzon Yireya V'yaseh V'yet Shabbatam Yishma V'yoshim Tila Adonai Dahaber Bi V'varech Kol Basar Shimchol Shol Le'olam Va'ed V'anachnu Nevarech Yo Me'ad Aviyad Olam Hallelujah. Join me on the last sentence of the page. Yimloch Adonai Le'olam Elohayim Tzion V'dor V'dor Hallelujah Hallelujah turn to page 99, Psalm 148, with what we call a familiar friend, something you might not recognize as you read through the psalm silently, but if we go to the 5th line from the bottom, this is most familiar. Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levado, Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem geret liyamo, tila lecho chazidam, livnei Yisrael abgirovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We turn now to page 100, Psalm 150, and we sing it like this. Middle of the page. Kol shamati hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol shamati hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Be goja, hallelujah, be giyaza, hallelujah, be gluraja. Hallelujah, Gerab Gula, Gula Shamati, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Gula Shamati, Hallelujah, 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 Beniga Jovar, Hallelujah, Benever Bechinar, Hallelujah, Bito. B'tavu macho, hallelujah, b'miri v'ugav, kol ha'neshama hallelujah, hallelujah, kol ha'neshama hallelujah, 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 v'tzitzalei shama, hallelujah, v'tzitzalei teruah. Kol hanishamati, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanishamati, hallelujah, hallelujah. Kol hanishamati, hallelujah, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Olam, Amen v'Amen. Baruch Adonai Mitzion Shochin Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim Elohei Yisrael, Oseni V'Ol Levado, Baruch Shem Kavod Le'olam V'Yamalech Baruch Haaretz, Amen v'Amen. I invite you to rise. We turn to page 101. V'Yivarech David, Adonai Le'nei Kol HaKahal, V'Yomer David, Baruch Atah Elohei Yisrael, L'cha Adonai ha'gidula v'ha'givura v'adiveret v'anei tzachod ki chol b'shamayim v'varetz ki chol b'shamayim v'varetz L'cha Adonai ha'mamlacha v'minasei lecho l'rosh Osher b'kol melech v'atam Hashem kol Atah Elohim, Asher b'chart be'Avraham, Motzei Tomer Kasdim, Samda Shmo Avraham, Motzat Levavon Ema Lefanecha, V'charot Imo Dabri Ladir Taknani Achiti Amori Abisi. V'yambag levnehem yarvu v'tochei v'vazha v'rorfei michlach v'enzolot mu'even v'mahayim azim. Page 102, let's recite together at the top. Vayosh Adonai bayom hahu et Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim meid al zavat hayam vayar Yisrael et hayar gadolah Asher asa Adonai b'Mitzrayim, v'yiroha bet Adonai, v'yaminu b'Adonai, v'le Moshe avdo. Az yashir Moshe u'vnei Yisrael, et hashira hazav Adonai, v'yomeru le'mar, hashir Eliel, Elohi Aviv Arom Emenu. Adonai Ish Milchama, Adonai Shema, Markivol Parav Echila, Yaharavaya, V'mivchar Shalijav, T'be'u v'yahavshu, Tehomodi Chaviv, Yaduvim Sholor Gemahaven, Yimincha Adonai, Nedarim Agava, Yimincha Adonai, Tiras Hayim. V'yadonai l'melech al haaretz b'yom hahu Yadonai echad b'shemo echad. You may be seated. We continue on the top of page 104. Nishmat kochai t'barech et shemcha Adonai Eloheinu v'roch v'asar t'barech t'barech. Join me in the middle of the page with this song. Ilufinu male shira shira gaya ushonenu rina kamon galav. Ilufinu male shira shira gaya ushonenuri nagamon gamon galav gamon galav gamon galav gamon galav. See if Lotena shalach marchadaraki. Nalil Chanesha Bechacha, Nefa'ech and Varech Shem God Shecha Kamor LeDavid, Barchin Avshet Adonai, Chol Kravai Jehim Kodsho, Oil B'Tad Moses Hecha, Hagadol B'Chva Shemecha, Hagiber LaNetzach Vanarabban Arodecha, Hamelech HaYoshev Agizei Ram Ben Isa. Join me in the middle of page 105. Shochin ad marav v'gadosh shema v'chadu radanu tzadikim Adonai v'yisharim lavatila v'yisharim v'dalav v'divri tzadikim v'dmarach v'yishad chazidim v'drama Kerev Gedoshim Digadash, V'magalad Revat, Amchamid Israel. Lihodol Hadashabeach, V'rameim Lahadel, V'rechalel Ekalis, Achodi Reish Yodid Ishbelot, David Ben Ishai, Avdecha Meshichecha. We rise 106. Ishtabach Shimcha Lad Makinu El Melchus Birachad Vadad Me'atav Yad Olam Baruch Mishpachat El Haodat Adonai Nivlot Habachel V'Shir Ramelech Elachei Olamim Yidgadah Hashem Ramah Yalmah Divrach V'Udhei V'Amelech Machutei B'chayechad V'Yomechad V'chayidecha B'Id Yisrael Bagala Bagala Uv'Yizmahal Garvi V'Imrel Yehishmei Rabba Mivorah Li'olam Lo Me'almaya Yidbarach Yidbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yidbar V'Yitmamid Naseh V'Yidadar V'Yidaleh V'Yidalal Shemei Dekudeshah V'Yehila Mikol Berlachata V'Shirata Tushbechata V'Nechemata Damiran B'Alema V'Imrel Amen. Baruch Hu Adonai Avivarach. Baruch Adonai Avivarach Ve'olam Vayel. Join me, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Yotzer Or V'Orei Choshech, Oseh Shalom V'Orei Et HaKol. Hallelujah, Chavakol Yishabchu, Chavakol V'Kadosh, Kadonai Kol, Ruch HaSel Etzel V'Chol. In kegecha v'inzuladecha eres bildecha homidon melach. In kegecha Adonai Eloheinu b'olam hazeh v'inzuladcha malkeinu l'chei olam haba. Eves v'dacha goleinu l'mod HaMashiach v'yidem melech HaMoshiach chiyat ha'metim. 108. El Adon Kol Amasim Baruch Mavorach Gavigo Nishama Galo V'Tuvo Malei Olam Da'ad Devona Sovevi Moto Hamid Gahel Achayot HaKodesh Ned Arachavad Halaver Gavah V'chud Dumishor Livnei Chizo Chesed v'racham livnei chivadav Tovim me'aron shebara Eloheinu Yitzhara B'dad ve'binahu v'azgel Kach u'gvura na'dad bahem V'yahod mohozim b'kerlev tehivel Lev ziv v'figim loga Na'eziv ha'mechalalam Tzemechim b'tzedam b'zazim b'voam Oseh b'yehi maritzon kana B'yer v'chavod no nimel ishmo Tzahal averina V'zecher machudah Karal HaShemesh v'yizerachor V'v'hidit Tzirad avana Shevach no nimlo Kozim ha'amara Tiveret v'gedula Shravim yavadim v'chayot ha'kadesh Lahela asher sheva migolam ha'asim. Page 110. Kibrach serein l'makin v'govaleinu. Kulam ahurim, kulam biburim, kulam giborim, kulam osim imara b'tzon konah, kulam bochim b'yem b'kusha b'dahara, b'shiva b'zimra, v'varach b'shabachim, Farim Aritim, Magdishim Rabim, Et Shem Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol, HaGibor HaNorah HaGadoshu, B'chol HaMechlim Binachad Rubah, Ksafam Vavnima, Kiddush HaKlam Gichad, Hodev Yobim B'yirah, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivot, Malach Haaretz Kivodo. Vavadi V'chayot HaKudesh Raj Gadol, Min Hasim L'Matzravim, Umadam Shavachim V'yomrim, Baruch Yevot, Adonai B'mkomo, Le'el Baruch Melteinu Melcham. Urchadash al Zion da'ir v'nizgeh kolanu me'al ha'ara. Urchadash al Zion da'ir v'nizgeh kolanu me'al ha'ara. Baruch atah Adonai yotzei ha'me'arat. Our love song to God, page 111. Ava Rabba Avdanu Adonai Eloheinu Chem Elach Dolavitera Chamad Aleinu Avinu Makeinu Ba'avur Avodeinu Shebat Chuvecha Shebat Chuvecha Avinu Makeinu, Vadilamdim Rukechayim, Kedichanedu Lamedeinu, Avinu Arachaman, Amerachim Rachim Aleinu, Vitin Bilibinu Lehavin, Lehavin Laskil Ishma, Vilemah Vishmar v'lasad, ulikayim ergadivre, kamudaradecha v'yahava, v'ha'er eineinu b'toratecha, v'na'amik libeinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yachli livavinu, v'yachava ulira et shemecha, v'lo nevot, le'olam va'ed, v'lo nevot, le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodshecha, hagadol ha'norah b'hadaglu, nagila, v'nismecha, nagila, v'nismecha v'yeshuatecha. V'yeinu l'shalom v'kavod haaretz v'talicheinu kamimilu le'yartzeinu ki el boel yeshuv dada uvahanu Mikol ha'vilajon, v'gir ha'v'danu, l'shimcha ha'gadol, selah, Beth Emet, li'od alecha, u'li'acherecha, be'yava. Baruch Adonai, Habachir b'Amo Yisrael b'Yahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yahavitahid Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu advarim ha'ile asher anochi metzavecha yom alevavecha v'shin adam levanecha v'di b'har tabam v'zivdecha b'vitecha v'lechnecha b'derech Shokbecha v'kumecha, Ugashadam le'oda yadecha, Vaylidodavahot minenecha, Ukedavdam, Abzuzot betecha, Avisharecha. Adonai lechem emet, v'yatziv nachomecha me'asher damam v'chlicha. V'tovadoch kayam u'shmokacham, v'chisonacham achlutocha v'emanato v'yad kayamet. Yurav v'chaim, namim, namim, v'chlim ha'ar. Mahakenu melech avodenu, golinu goel avodenu, Godspeed Joshua podenu, matzilenu, melam shemecha, enu v'zulatecha. 114. Ezad vodenu, adal me'olam. Emet, 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 atahu rishon. Emet, 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 v'atahu acharon. Uvi baladecha ilanu melech, melech elu Moshiach. Uvi baladecha ilanu melech, melech elu Moshiach. Mitzrayim g'atanu v'edrim. Tilel Yochon, Baruch Hu Mivarach, Moshe B'nai Yisrael, L'chanu Shirah, B'simcha Rabah, V'arbu Kulah. We rise. Mi Chamacha, Va'ilim Adonai, Mi Chamacha, Nedar B'Kodesh, Nahar Adilo, Osei V'Eleh, Shira Chadashash, V'chugulim L'Shimcha Tzadiyaham, Yacha Kulam Hoduvim Lichu V'Yamril, Adonai Imach, Le'olam Va'ed, Tzor Israel, Kulma B'Ezrat Israel, V'dei V'Mecha, Yehuda V'Yisrael, Kol Aleinu, Adonai Tzva'ot Shemo, Kidosh Yisrael, Baruch Adonai, Kol Yisrael. The Shachrit Amida is recited in silence, beginning on page 115A or B. We omit page 116, and the Amida concludes on page 120. continue with the repetition of the Shachrit Amida, page 115a. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov El HaGadol HaGibur VeHaNorah El Elyon Gamel Chazarim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zacher Chasdei Avo Mevi Goel Livnei V'nehem Leman Shemo B'Yahava Melech Hazel Moshe Umagin Baruch Adonai Magin Avraham Hada Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechimedi Mahana Ravloshia Mashiv Haruach Morid Hagashem Mechal Kelchayim Bechesed Mechayim Eidim Mirachabim Rabim Samech Navim Verovecholim Umadir Azubim Umekayim Emunada Lishenei Avar Michamacha Givurot Umira Melach Melech Mimi Umichael Umazmeach Yeshua B'nei Manad Alachayon Medim Baruch Adonai Mechei Hamedim 116 Nikadesh et Shimcha Ba'olam Yishem Shemagdishim Oda B'Shmei Marav Kagadu V'yad Nevi'echa V'karazeh El Zeh Ve'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzebaot Melech Haaretz Gevodo Ahaz Raj Gadol, Adir V'chazak V'ziv Gadol, Midna Hasim L'umat Ziravim, L'umadam Baruch Yom Mehiru, Baruch Yivad Adonai Mimkomo. Mimkom Chomakenu Tofiyah, Timlach Aleinu L'gmechakim Anachnu Lach, Madai Timlach B'Tzion, Bekar Hobi Ameinu, Lilamed Tishkon. Tid Kadosh, Tid Kadosh, B'dach Yerushalayim Yilecha, L'dor V'dor, V'nitzach Nitzachim. V'einu Tirena, Tirena Machudecha, Kadavar Hamar, Beshirei Uzecha, V'yeinu Tirena, Tirena Machudecha, Kadavar Hamar, Beshirei Uzecha, Oyedei, David, Oyedei, David, Oyedei, David, Mashiach Tzidkecha, Oyedei, David, Oyedei, David, Oyedei, David, Mashiach Tzidkecha, Yimloch Adonai Allah, Elohim Sion, L'dor V'dor, Hallelujah. L'dor V'dor Nagid Golecha, L'nezach L'semen Shelecha Nagdish, Shivchachachem Mepinu Mishtolam Ba'ed, Ki Amelch Gadol V'kadosh, Ada, Baruch, Ada Adonai, El HaGadosh. Please be seated. We continue on page 117. Yismach Moshe b'matnat tehagagi even ne'emat karatalo kilil tiferet bero shana tahata b'yamna levanecha al har Sinai v'shnei luchad avarim hivahorid b'yahado v'chatuf bahem shemirat shalabad v'chatuf bahem shemirat shalabad v'chatuf bahem Shemirat Shabbat, Chigatu B'Toratecha, V'Shamru V'nei Yisrael, Et HaShabbat, L'asot et HaShabbat, L'doda B'rit Olam, B'nei Uvin, B'nei Yisrael, Oti Le'olam, B'nei Uvin, B'nei Yisrael, Oti Le'olam, Kishesh et Yamim, Asa Adonai, et HaShamayim, V'et Haaretz, V'yom HaShvi, V'yom HaShvi, Shabbat v'yinavash, V'yom HaShvi, V'yom HaShvi, Shabbat v'yinavash. V'lo nidada, Adonai Eloheinu, l'geras of Eloheinu, chal tomah, k'nadei v'selim, v'gamnu chadosh, k'nevarelim, k'Yisrael, Amcha hadidata b'hava, l'izmei agah, asher b'macharta, Ahame kadosh shvi, kula b'yizbivi, dagul mitzuvecha, v'ashviratita b'v'kedash do, cherem nad yami mahota garata, zecher l'ma'aseh v'reishit, Eloheinu, V'Elohei Avotenu, Ritzevim Lachateinu, Kadesheinu b'mitzvotecha, V'tein chelkeinu b'toratecha, Sabeinu b'tuvecha, V'samcheinu b'shuvatecha, V'taher libeinu, Yavdecha b'yemet, V'hanchilinu Adonai Eloheinu, V'yachova u'v'raza, Shabbat kodechecha, V'yanu chova Yisrael, V'kadeshei v'kadeshei shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai, V'kadesh HaShabbat. 118. Ritzei, Adonai Eloheinu, B'macha Yisrael, Nefel Adon v'Hashem, Elohovodah l'Dvir B'techa. Ritzei, Adonai Eloheinu, B'macha Yisrael, Nefel Adon v'Hashem, Elohovodah l'Dvir B'techa. U'tefilatam, B'yava B'yava Dego B'b'razon, L'razon damid avodat Israel Hamecha, U'tefilatam, B'yava B'yava Dego B'b'razon, L'razon damid avodat Israel Hamecha. Ritzei, V'techazena Eineinu, V'shuvcha l'tziyam rachamim, Baruch atah Adonai, HaMakadesh Echinat L'Tzion, Adim Anachnu Lach, Adonai. Atov Gilach Rachamecha, V'merachim Gilad Amecha Zadecha, Melacham Givinu Lach. Middle of 119. V'yachol mitbrachim mamshim b'chamak netzim l'olam ba'erev. V'chol ha'chayim yaducha sela. V'yachol ha'chim Beth Emet. Ela shvatin esvatinu zela. Baruch atah Adonai. Adon shem chol ha'chol ha'lehodor. Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu. Baruch Baruch HaMishuach Shel Torah, HaKtivayim Moshe Avdecha, HaMurabi B'Aaron U'Vanav, Kohanim Kedoshecha Gamur, Yivarechecha Adonai Yair Adonai, Vanavelecha Vichuneka. Is Adonai, Vanavelecha, V'yasehim Lecha Shalom. Page 120. Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Dovo Rokolam, Sim Shalom, Dovo Vracha, Chid V'chesed V'rachamim Aleinu, V'algo Yisrael Amecha, V'cheinu Aleinu Kulanu Ge'echad B'yor Panecha, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Davao Rokolam, Sim Shalom, Davao Vracha, Torah Chayim Ve'avar Chesed, V'yar Panecha, Nadadalanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Torah Chayim Ve'avar Chesed, U'tzedakah, Rachamim V'Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Davao Rachamim, Sim Shalom, Davao Vracha, V'tov Beinecha, Levorich Edamecha, Edamcha, Yisrael, V'chol Eitu V'chol Shah, Bishlamecha, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Sim Shalom, Davao Rachamim, Sim Shalom, Dovo V'racha, Baruch Adonai, Abivarich Damo Yisrael, B'Shalom. We conclude the Shacharit with Kaddish Shalem. Don't get used to it, because in a while it's going to be Hallel. So, Kaddish Shalem on page 138. Yigav Shemei Rabbah. V'Almadi Brachu Deva Michal Tevechol V'Chol V'Chol Yisrael. B'Aglav Yisman Kari V'Yimra. Amen. Yesh Shemei Rabbah Mivara. V'Alam Lameh Olmaya. Yidmara. Yipravish Tabach. Yipravish Menaseh. V'David Avidal. Shemei Dekudashah. Eila Mikabercha Davashivada. Jivcha Davadechavata. Damram Demal V'Yimru. Amen. Kabel so don't look Israel. Kadavon Vishmaya Vehimeru. Amen. Yes, Lamram Mitzvah V'Chaim Alinu. Yaakov Israel Vehimeru. Amen. V'Aseh Shalom Miramam. V'Aseh Shalom Alinu. V'Yaakov Israel Vehimeru. Amen. Please be seated. We now continue our service with the service for the taking out of the Torah, page 139. In kamacha v'Elohim Adonai v'gemasecha malechudecha malecha kol olamim v'memshaldecha b'chodor v'adar Adonai Shalom. Avarach Avim Hidiva V'Zanecha Et Zion Tivnecha Omahat Yerushalayim Tivnecha Omahat Yerushalayim
sovereignty. May your favor abide with your people Israel, and may your redeeming power be revealed to them in your sanctuary. Bless us with your light, and with compassion accept our prayer. May it be your will to grant us long life and well-being, to count us among the righteous, and to guard us, our families, and all your people Israel with compassion. You nourish and sustain all life. You rule over all, even kings, for dominion is yours. We are the servants of the Holy One, whom we revere and whose Torah we revere at all times. Not on mortals do we rely, or upon angels do we depend, but on the God of the universe, the God of truth, whose Torah is truth, whose prophets are truth, and who abounds in deeds of goodness and truth. In God do we put our trust. To God's holy, precious being do we utter praise. Open our hearts to your Torah. Answer our prayers and the prayers of all your people Israel, for goodness, for life, and for peace.
Amen. In the words of Rabbi Berman, it is good to schmooze when the Torah is out.
It is good.
Be back
No say. Ani lo yodea. Kind of a longer reading, huh? Just one,
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
It's wonderful again to be here with you.
Nice to have you with us.
I was 5, and my brother Phil was 8. We were playing in the living room, and our mom told us that a man was coming to fix the washing machine. And could we please listen up and get the door when he came? Both Phil and I ran to the door when we heard the knock. There he was. And as he walked into our house, I noticed that one of his legs was shorter than the other one. Why is one of your legs shorter than the other one? I asked. My brother ran out of the room, ran to find my mother, grabbed her and said, "Can't you get her to shut up?" And when Phil tugged her back into the living room, they found the two of us sitting at a table, and he was explaining polio and that he had it. My mother was behind me, and she was trying to get his attention, and she started mouthing, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." He said, "No, don't be sorry. How else will she know if she doesn't ask? I'd rather her do that," he said, "than point or run away or be scared." "He had polio, Mommy." My brother smacked his head and ran out of the room. This Shabbat, Hagadol, we read the double portion, Tazria Metzora, and within these portions, along with the laws of how to address bodily discharges and what to do when houses develop streaks of green and red and black, we learn about what happens if a person develops skin lesions. Says God, when a person has on the skin of the body, tazrat, a swelling, a rash, a discoloration, it develops into a scaly affection on the skin of the body, it shall be reported to Aaron or one of his sons, the priests. The priest shall examine the affection on the skin of the body. If hair in the affected area has turned white and the affection appears to be deeper than the skin of the body, it is a leprous affection. And when the priest sees it, he shall announce the person tameh, impure. They were metzora, a leopard. For this and other descriptions of bodily fluids, defiled clothing, and moldy houses, this is one of those Torah portions that those studying to become a B'nai Mitzvah pray they don't get. God is not saying that the person is bad or less than or in need of punishment. Sure, there was a real concern about contagion. The community needed to be protected. It was the rabbis that later argued that there was a reason these individuals developed these lesions. The reason that they had become lepers, metzora, God was punishing them. The rabbis blamed the person who came down with the tizra, or on lashon hara. They had gossiped. It was a clever play on words. A person with tizrat is called a metzora, and so to the rabbinic ear, it was easy to make the leap to motzira, to bring about evil, which in the phrase motzi shem ra, bringing up an evil name, gossip, slander. Therefore, those with the affliction of the lesions, those afflictions were because they had engaged in Motzi Shem Ra. The rabbis were quick to blame the victims, not God. Instead, God sends those with skin lesions not to a doctor, but to a priest. Priests, the holy ones responsible for maintaining holiness, for bringing out the holy. And God commands the priests to see, to look, to examine in detail. The root, ra'ah, to see, appears 39 times in this portion. Take in the whole person, God said, and pay attention. The priest would examine the scales and the lesions. The person would come back the next day, and if they still hadn't settled, then the affected person would be sent out, isolated from the community. But the priests would continue to be in contact with them, re-examine again and again until such time that the priest thought it was safe for the individual to return. But safe needed to be more than a non-contagion. God said, perform a ritual so that the one who had been ill could return to themselves and to let others feel safe for them to return. It was a ritual complete with animal sacrifice, with spices, with sprinkles of oil, with the priest placing blood from the sacrificed animal on the curve of the ear. They were bathed and they were anointed. The demands of this ritual and all of the steps that needed to be taken look amazingly close to the purification rituals that were performed on Aaron and his sons before they became priests. It makes sense because they were rituals of transformation. They were rituals of rebirth. Tizra'at wasn't leprosy because it was healed. It went away. But many of our illnesses do not heal. And so many of our illnesses are unseen. Chronic illness, chronic pain that can't be seen, but it is felt. It's felt and it is isolating. Those with chronic pain stop talking about it because they don't want to be turned away. No, I'm fine, they say. I'm fine, I can live among you. But actually they are not. So what ritual might help them? Help them to stand in the place that they are, being fully who they are, even when they are not fine. As a hospice chaplain, I often have the honor of assisting a person or a whole family in rituals of release, rituals that help them feel safe as they go from living to dying, from life to death, in a way that speaks to the life they have lived and what they hoped for at its end. And this was true for a young man named Ariel, Lion for God. He chose this Jewish name while he was in prison. When Ariel was back out in the world, he was diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. But while he was in prison, his chaplain was a rabbi. And so for those 3 years, he studied Judaism, slightly a captive audience. But at the age of 34, he was told that he had months to live. He moved into his parents' home, and he came into hospice care, and I became his chaplain. His body was racked with pain, and his room smelled of sick. During one of our visits, he told me, I want to be bathed after I die. I opened my mouth to start to explain Tahara, but he went on, no, I want you and my family to bathe me here, please. I want the sick gone. I want to be me again, the me I know. So we planned it. His sister bought new towels and washcloths and new soap. We set up a small table in his room, And on it was a beautiful basin we would use with new towels. And there was the perfume that he wanted us to mix with the warm water, and his most comfortable sweatpants and sweatshirt, and candles, he said, lots and lots of candles. It was an altar that represented returning him to the place of wholeness. His illness had not caused his illness was the cause of his brokenness, but not his life. And when he could no longer speak, he would point to the table with anxiousness, and we would assure him it would happen, it would happen. And it always seemed to relax the pain on his face. I happened to be present when he died. And slowly, slowly, we prepared his room. We set up the candles. We took out all of the medical equipment so we could all be really close around him. His brother took his torso. His sisters, his mother, and I washed his arms and his legs, his face and his hair. We washed his body to the extent that we could while still respecting his modesty. And then, out of nowhere, we started singing. It wasn't planned, it just happened. And they told stories, and we laughed and we cried. This death ritual changed his relationship to himself while he was still alive. He knew his body would regain wholeness. It also created a death story for his family, one that brought comfort for many years. His mother remarked that bathing him at this point felt like bathing him just after he was born. The midwives that helped prepare him to come into this world, he was going from a place he had always been to a place he had never been. And now we were helping him go to that place he had always been, to that place he had never been. I wonder what it felt like when I first asked the man about his legs. Was he waiting for this little kid to make fun of him? Because no doubt it had happened before. What compassion he showed. What a gift he gave me. He spoke to me, a 5-year-old, in a way that said, "This is who I am, not less, not less, not less than you." And Ariel's ritual allowed him to say, "This is who I am." And this is the power of Tazria and Mitzorah. It invites us. It actually demands us that in our illness and in our health, we are seen. And so it says to us, don't turn away. Don't turn away from yourself. This is the gift of Tazria and Mitzorah. Shabbat Shalom.
Let me invite my Gabayim up to the Bima, and we'll begin the Torah reading in just a moment. Nice to have you back. Perfect excited to be back for it, believe me. V'yaz v'egid v'lo shkosim b'nor amen. Hakol havu gor leinu nuchabar la Torah. Is he? Is Turkey's first? You're not yet. Yamod ein kan kohen yamod levi b'mkom kohen. Yamod Moshe Simcha ben Yaakov Alevi v'Yitzhak levi b'mkom kohen.
We're on page 663, verse 33, the last verse at the bottom of the page.
128.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'daber Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aharon lemar. Ki tavo eretz Canaan, asher ani noten lachem lachuzah. V'natati negad zarat b'veit eretz achuzatchem. Uva asher lo habayit v'gi lakohen lemar. Kenega nirali babayit. V'tziva ha'kain ufinu et habayit. B'terem gavo kohen nirot et hanega. V'lo yitma kol asher babayit. V'achar kein yavo kohen nirot et habayit. V'raha et hanega. V'nei hanega v'kirot habayit. Shekarurot yirak rakot. O adam damot. Marehen shaval min hakir. V'yatsa hakohen min habayit apedach habayit. V'izkiret habayit shivad yamim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hagomel l'chayavim tovot. Shed malani kol tov.
Mishkamacha kol tov. U'ikamacha kol tov. Selah.
Amen.
Amen. Yamot Sheni. Yamot Abraham ben Ari Basha. Sheni.
Page 664, verse 39.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMeforach. Baruch Adonai HaMeforach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'shava kohen bayom hashvi'i. V'raha v'nei pasa hanega bakirot habayit. V'tziva hakohen v'chiltzu et havanim asher bahen hanaga. V'shlichu eten el mechutz la'ir el makom tamei. V'et habayit yaktzia mi bayit saviv. V'shafluhu et afar asher yiktzu el mechutz la'ir el makom tamei. V'lachlu havanim achirot. V'eviu el tachat havanim. V'afar achar yikach. V'tach ad et habayit. V'im yashuv hanega ufarach v'bayit. Achar chilat et avanim. Chilet et avanim. V'acharei ktzot habayit. V'achar hitoach. V'acharei hitoach. Uv'akohen v'ravini pasah nega v'bayit. Tzarad mameret hihi v'bayit tamehu. V'natat et habayit et avat nahav. V'tetzav et kol afar habayit. V'otzia mechutz ha'ir el makom tamei. V'habayel habayit koyemei. Hizkir oto yitma'at ha'arev. V'ashochim b'bayit yichabes et begadav. V'achel b'bayit yichabes et begadav.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Talmud Shlishi.
Page 665, verses 48.
Talmud Freda Bad Magna Ve'elka. Shlishi.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Le'Rachel
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai, Noten HaTorah.
Amen. V'imboyavo hakohen. V'ravini lo v'sa nega b'bayit acharei. Toach v'tabayit. V'tiyar hakohen et habayit kinir paha nega. V'lakach v'chatei et habayit shtei tziporim. V'yitzeres n'shnei tolad v'ezo. V'shachat et hatzipor echad. El kli cheresh al hamayim chayim. V'lakach et yitzeres et ha'ezov. V'shnei atolad. V'et hatzipor achaya. V'tov elodam. V'dam hatzipor hashchuta. V'mayim achayim. V'isa el habayit sheva pe'amim. V'chita et habayit v'dam hatzipor. V'mayim achayim. V'hatzipor achaya. V'eta erez v'va'ezav v'shnei atolad. V'shilach et hatzipor achaya el mechutz ha'ir el pnei sadeh. V'chiper al habayit v'etaher.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. Talmud Revi'i.
Page 666, verse 54.
Ruchama Chana Bachana, right?
Talmud Ruchama Chana Bar Chana Revi'i.
Okay. This Zot
Zot HaTorah. Zot HaTorah.
That's totally right here. Now we get Baruch Hu.
That's a good number.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarah.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Repeat this.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarah le'olam va'ed.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher baka banu mikol ha'anim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. Zod HaTorah l'chol nega HaTzarad l'natek v'la'tzarad ha'beged v'la'bayit v'la'sa'id v'la'sapacha v'la'behared l'harad v'yom ha'tameh v'yom ha'tahor Zod Torah HaTzarad v'daber Adonai el Moshe v'el Aaron lemor dabru al b'nei Yisrael v'amarta alehem v'amartem alehem ish ish ki ezov mibsoro zovo tamehu V'zot tiet tumato, v'zovo rahar b'soro, et zovo o echeti b'soro, v'zovo tumato he. Kol ha'mishkav asher yishkav alav hazav yitma, v'chol ha'kli asher yeshiv alav yitma, v'ish asher yigav mishkavo, chabeis begadav rachas b'mayim v'tamei ad ha'arev, Vayoshev al akli asher yeshiv alav hazav, yichabeis begadav, brachas b'mayim v'tamei al ha'arev, v'nogeh b'bsar hazav, chabeis begadav, brachas b'mayim v'tamei al ha'arev.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nitachenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Number 5, right?
Yamod Chamishi, Yamod Dover ben Yehuda Chamishi.
Page 667, verse 8.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarah. Baruch Adonai Hamvarah le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. V'chiyar og hazav b'tahor, Chibes begadav rachas pamayim b'tamei ad ha'arev v'chol emerkav asher yikarv alav azav yitma v'chol nogea v'chol asher yetachtav yitma ad ha'arev v'nosei ota mechabes begadav rachas pamayim b'tamei ad ha'arev v'chol asher yigabo hazav v'yadav lo shatav pamayim chibes begadav rachas pamayim b'tamei ad ha'arev Uchli cheres asher yigabo hazav yishaber v'chol chli etz yishatef b'mayim v'chi yitar hazav yisavo v'safar lo shivat yamim l'torota v'chibes begadav rachas b'saro b'mayim chayim v'tihar v'taher v'yom hashmini yikach lo shtei torim o shnei b'nei gona uva lifnei Adonai el pedach el moed u'netanam el hakohin V'asad ha'vakohin, echad chatat v'echad olah, v'chiber alav ha'vakohin livnei Adonai, Yisrael.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayilom notav b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten Torah.
Amen. Yamot Shishi.
Page 668, verse 16.
Yamot Yehuda ben Yehuda. Shishi.
ברכו את אדוני כמבורך.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
אדוני כמבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך עולם אשר בך בנו בתוך עמים ונתנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני תורה.
Amen. Vish ki tetzei mimenu shechvat tzara, brachas pamayim erko basara v'tamei ad ha'arev, v'chol beged v'chol or asher yeh alav shechvat tzara, v'chibes begadav v'chubas b'mayim v'tamei ad ha'arev, v'isha asher yishka v'ish ota shechvat tzara, brachzu b'mayim v'tamu ad ha'arev, v'isha K'tiyeh zava daham yeh zava b'vsara shivat yamim tiyeh benidata v'chol nogei habayit ma'ad ha'arev v'chol asher tishkav alav benidata yitma v'chol asher teshev ala yitma v'chol hanogei mishkavai chabes begadav rachas pamayim v'tamei ad ha'arev v'chol nogei b'chol chli asher teshev alav chabes begadav rachas pamayim v'tamei ad ha'arev V'imala mishkav hi hu oakli asher hi yoshevet alav b'nagavovo yitma ad ha'arev v'im shochiv yishkav ish v'im shachov yishkov ish ota v'tahi nidata alav v'tamei shivat yamim kol mishkav asher yishkav alav yitma v'isha ki yazu zov dama yamim rabim b'lav Et nidata, okitasu et nidata, kol yemei, zov jumata, ki mei nidata tia, tumeahi, kol amishkaha, asher dishkav alav, kol yemei zova, kamishpa nidata yelaha, v'chol akli asher deshev alav, tamei hiya, kitsumat nidata, v'chol nagei haba mitma, chibes begadav rachas b'mayim v'tamei ad ha'arev, V'im Torah mizova v'safra la shivat yamim b'achar titar.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך עולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני תורה.
Amen. Tamod Shvi'i, Tamod Miriam Yocheved, Bat Yosef Yona, Shvi'i.
Page 669, verse 29.
Down here, number 7. It's not 4 above for you, it's not too long.
Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayom Hashmini Tikach Lashte Tori Moshe B'nei Yonah V'evia Otam El HaKohen El Pedach Ohel Moed V'asa Kohen Et HaEchad Chatat V'Echad Olam V'chiper Aleha Kohen Lifnei Adonai Mizov Tumata V'izartem B'nei Yisrael Mitumatam V'lo Yamutu B'tum Atam B'motam Et Mishkani Bitam Am et Mishkani, Asher Betocham, Zol Torah Hazav Asher Tetzei Mimenu Shichvat Zara, Letum Ha'ava, Vadava Benideta, Vazav et Zavol Zacher V'lanikiva, Uleish Asher Yishgav, Im Tmeya.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Natan B'tochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. And now we reflect upon those in our community in need of our good wishes and God's healing as we recite the Mishnah Berach. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yishebeira imotenu, Mikar Amerahotenu. Bless those in need of healing, with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Yidgad Havid Shemei Rabbah. Amen. B'yalma divrach Yehude v'yamelech malchutei b'chayecha v'yomecha v'chayecha b'ed Yisrael b'agala uv'izman hariv Imrel. Amen. Yesh mei Rama mevorach li'olam me'amaya Yidbarach v'ishtabach v'yidbar v'yitramah v'yidnaseh v'yidhadar v'yidaleh v'yidalal shemei kudeshah v'hila mikol birlachada v'shirada tushvechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'imrel. Amen. Okay, so you gotta call me up.
Yamod, Maftir, Yamod, Achazan, Zev Shalom, Ben Harav, Tzvi Chaim, Ve'asnalea, Maftir Chazak, page 669, verse 31.
Where are we starting?
He's our turn.
Baruch hu Adonai b'varav. Baruch Adonai b'varav le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah. V'izartem b'nei Yisrael mitumatam v'lo yamutu bitam atam et mishkani asher betocham. Zol Torah Hazav Asher Tetzei Mimenu Shichvat Zara Zera Letum Ahava Vadava Benideta Vazav et Zavo Lezacher V'lanikiva Uleish L'zachar l'nekeva u'leish asher yishkav im tameya. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chai olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten Torah. Yaman Magbiya. Who's tying the Torah? Tama Lagolele. These are the Torah, Asher Son Moshe, Lifnei Bnei Yisrael, Biyad Adonai, Biyad Moshe. Let me have that. Grab the column. Perfect reading to back forward. Go ahead.
On Shabbat Hagadol, the tradition tells us to read as our Haftorah portion a passage from the prophet Malachi that includes the verse, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of God. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of children to their fathers." It is said that this verse from Malachi is also how Elijah came to be associated with Passover. Our eager anticipation of his arrival has kept children alert all through many a long Seder, waiting for the moment they can open the door to let him in or escape themselves for a moment under the long table. But besides being in the one verse of Malachi, have you wondered why we pay attention to Elijah on Pesach as well as every Brit Milah? Well, that was when Elijah said to God, you know, the Israelites are going away. There's nothing going to happen. And so God said, oh, yeah, go to every bris. You'll see. So he's at every bris. He's the end of every week, every Shabbat, when Jews sing Eliyahu Hanavi. May Elijah the prophet come soon to tell us that the Mashiach is near. Why is it, Elijah, we mention it every meal when Birkat Hamazon, the long blessing we offer after we have eaten, is recited and sung? And why the many stories in Talmud and Midrash of rabbis bumping into Elijah here and there and typically receiving excellent advice from him? Well, for one, Elijah, unlike the other heroes in the Bible, did not die. He simply disappeared into the heavens in a chariot. I'd say perfect for the set for a Hollywood or biblical sequel. And for another, and I like this one, Elijah was a troublemaker. And it came to pass that when Ahab saw Eliyahu, that Ahab said to him, "Is it you, you troubler of Israel?" And he answered, "No, I have not troubled Israel, but you and your father's house. In that you have forsaken the commandments of the Lord."
Okay, thank you. And the Haftorah, I believe, is found on page, 1295? 1296. 1296. Oh, just to make a comment before I start, as Rabbi said, nobody wants Tazria Mitzorah for their bat mitzvah portion, except my daughter. Actually, she didn't want it, but I chose it for her. It was Tazria Mitzorah. Of course, she's not reading the Haftorah from Mitzorah, but I like the Haftorah from Mitzorah because it tells a story. It tells a story of those who are suffering from Hansen's disease, whatever the case may be, outside the gate, and they discovered there was a battle. They discovered that the enemy had fled, and they let the Israelites know. And so it's a wonderful story. It's one of those Haftorot that tells a story, and that's easy for someone young to relate to. So we didn't focus on Tazria or Mitzorah. We focused on the Haftorah, but still. So anyway, this isn't her Haftorah, but it's a special day. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'neviim tovim ratzah b'divrei v'nemarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai abacher b'torah v'Moshe avdaho Yisrael amaho v'nvi'ei haemet v'tzedek. V'raval Adonai minchad Yehuda v'Yerushalayim Kimei olam uchshnayim kadmoniyot Kravti alechem ha-mishpat Vayeti yed mimaher Ba-mechashvim uva-menavim Uva-nishbayim la-shaker Velshkei tzachar zachir Almana ve'atom Umateger v'la-yireguni Amar Adonai tzvahot Ki ani Adonai lo shaniti, vatem b'nei Yaakov lo chelitem, mimei avodechem, sartem mechugai, lo shemartem shuvu elai, vashuva alechem, amar Adonai tzvahot, vamartem b'menashu, ha'ik ba'adam Elohim, ki atem, kol yimoti, vamartem b'meh, Geva'anucha ha'ma'aser v'hatrumah b'me'era atem ne'erihim v'oti atem kovihim ha'goy kulo Haviv et kol ha'ma'aser el b'ira ha'otzar v'hiteref b'veiti v'vechanuni nah bazot amar Adonai tzvahot im lo eftach lachem eid arubot hashamayim Varikoti lachem beracha ad belidai. Vigarti lachem ba'ochel, v'lo yashchit lachem et pri adamah. V'lo tishakel lechem hagefen basadeh, amar Adonai tzvahot. V'yishru etchem kol hagoyim, ki tiyu atem eretz chayfetz, amar Adonai tzvahot. Chazku alai divrechem, amar Adonai. V'amartem, Ma nid barnu alecha amartem shahav avod Elohim uma betza ki shamarnu mishmarto v'chi halachnu ki dehora nihid mipnei Adonai tzvahot v'yata anachnu mashrim zeidim gam nivnu osei risha gam bachanu Elohim Vayimalitu ahaz nidbiru yirei Adonai ish el reyehu vayakshiv Adonai v'yishma vayikateim sefer zikaron lefanav lirei Adonai lechoshvei shemaho vayuli amar Adonai tzvahot layom sherani yoses gulaha v'chamalti alehem kasher yachmol ish al binoho al vit otraho Shavtem or eatem bein tzadik l'rasha bein oved Elohim asher lo avado ki hinei hayom baha boer katanor vayuchol zeidim cholosei visha kash v'lihatodam hayom haba amar Adonai tzvahot asher le'azov lehem shoresh ve'anahav v'zarcha lachem yirei shemi Shemet tzedakah u'marpei bichnafeha v'tzatem ufishtem keglei marbei v'asotem shayim ki hu efer tachat kapot raglechem payom asher ani yoseh amar Adonai tzvahot zichru torat Moshe avdi asher tziviti yodi v'chorev al kol Yisrael chugim u'mishpatim Hine Anochi Sholeach Lachem Eit Eliyahu Hanavi Livnei Bo Yom Adonai Hagadol V'Hanaraha Ve'shiv Leiv Avod Al Banim Leiv Banim Al Avodam Pen Avo
והגעתי את הארץ חרם, הנה אנוכי שולח לכם, את אליה הנביא לפני ביום אדוני הגדול והנורא. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol olamim tzadik b'chol darot ha'el ha'nem ha'ad ha'omer yosef medaber mekayim shekol devarav emet v'tzedek ne'emad atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emadim devarecha v'devar echad midvarecha achol ha'yashuv regam ki ha'melech ne'ema v'rachaman atah Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'nem ha'mechol devarav Rach Ematziagi Beit Chayinu V'laluva Nefesh Toshiyah B'mirav Yameinu Baruch Atah Adonai Samech Tziyahon B'vaneha Samecheinu Adonai Eloheinu V'lehu Hanavi Avdecha V'malchut Beit David Mashiachecha B'mira Yavaha V'yagil Libenu Agizah L'yishev Zar V'lein Chalot Acherim Ekivodaho V'shem Kodshecha Nishbad Allah Shelech V'neiro V'elam V'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Magi David, Al HaTorah v'al Avodah v'al Nevim, v'yom HaShabbat hazeh, she'nadad alanu Adonai Eloheinu l'kdusha v'milcha, l'chavol t'tifaret, Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu, Anachnu modim lach, mevarchim otach, Yibarach Shimcha b'fi kochai, Tamid le'olam va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. And now we continue on page 146 in our Sidurim. Let's read the last paragraph of the page, a prayer for our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen. La yisagoy agoy cherem v'lo yilmedu od melchama. La yisagoy agoy cherem v'lo yilmedu od melchama v'nomar Amen. We read together on page 149, prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shabashamayim. Soy Yisrael v'goalo, barichet midinat Yisrael, reshit smichad gulatenu, hagin alea bervat chazdecha, ufros alea sukat shlomecha, ushlach orcha v'amidcha rosha sarah v'yartzah, v'tagnim be'etza tova milfanecha, chazek et yidei meginei eretz chodshenu, v'anchilim Eloheinu Yeshua, v'ateret nitzachon ta'atreim, V'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'simchat olam liyoshveha, v'nomar Amen. I invite Robbie to lead us now on 151 with the usher.
Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha od Yahalucha Selah. Tila leDavid armim kalo ha'melech v'avreka shimka leolam va'ed. Leolam va'ed. Gadol nai mekulam meo v'lik dulato echeker. Maseka Rateka yagidu. Adar kifohotecha v'difreini flotecha asika. Uzrateka yomeru. Seker raftu kaya biu fisika kaya nenu. Nai epondo kase tova nai lako v'rakama v'koma saf. Koma seka asiki deka. Kevo mahut kayo meru kevu rateka yetaperu. Mahutka mahukolami mumem chafteka pekodor fador. No flee. Sike fleko feed. E Nico e leka yisa beru fanotin lahet el klambito. Yateko maspila ka. Sadiq Adonai beko tivaka veka si beko masaf. Lahola shekru Rich Sonia Vyase Veshav Shma Fyoshie. Yashmi Tila Adonai Da Berpi Viva Reko Basar Shem Kochol Lamfaed Anav
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Kid is God, Shem Levado, Hara, Eret, Vishamai, Hayarem,
Karen Liamo Ilako Asida Linde Israel Amkirufo Hallelujah Hallelujah Miss Morle David Adonai Beneli Adonai Kavos Adonai Kivot Shemo Ishtakavu Adonai Be'arakol Kol Adonai Ohamaim El Kavodirim Adonai Ohamaim Rabim Kol Adonai Ba'akoa Kol Adonai Be'adar Kol Adonai Shomer Arazim Vashaber Adonai Etar Seofano Varkidim Como Egel Levano Visirio Kimo Veiremim Kol Adonai Oselavo H Kol Adonai Gavil Mivar Gavil Adonai Mivar Kadesh Kol Adonai Yovelai Alo Vayasof Yerod Vekei Kalo Kulo Mer Kavod Adonai Mabuya Vishem Adonai Melech Leolam Adonai Yom Moitei Adonai Yevarech Enamo Shalom Lamecha Yomar Kileka Dona Dilachem Torati Adonai Sofu Eis Ma'imi Lama Chazedikiva Vito Vechecha Veushar Jehoreha Darchei Naom Vechol Levirotecha Shalom Hashireinu Adonai Remain standing for the Chasi Kaddish before the Musaf 155. Yid God Havi God Shemei Rabba. Bialma Divrachir Avludi Biamelich Malchute. Bechayechot Uvyomechot Uvechayidech Al Beit Yisrael. Bagala Bagala Uvimahakari Vimrel. Yeshmei Rabba Mivara Liolam Alome Almaya Yidbarach Vishtabach Vidbar Vitma Vidnar Sevid Hadar Vidale Shemede Gudusha Vila Miga Berlachada Vishirada Tusmechada Nechemata Gamir
Vimrel. Amen. We begin the Musaf Amida together on page 156b. We recite the Kedusha on 157, and then we conclude the Amida in silence through page 161. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VeHaNorah El Ehayad Gamel Chazadim Tovim Ve'ganei HaGahom V'zocher Chasdei Avot U'mevi Goel Livnei V'neihem Le'man Shemo B'yahava Melech Ozer U'vogid U'moshiach U'magin Baruch Atah Adonai Magin Ora U'vogid Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechemitim Ada Rav L'Hoshia Mashiv HaRuah Marid HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim Bechesed Mechayim Eidim Berachabim Rabim Samech Navim Veravech Cholim Umadir Asirim Umekayim Emunata Lishenei Avar Michamocha Magivurot Omido Melach Melech Mimi Umechayeh Umashmiach Yeshua V'ne'emanat Alachayom Midim Baruch Atah Adonai Mechei Hamidim Naharitzecha V'nagdishecha Kizotzia Sarvei Kodesh Hamagdishim Shimcha V'kodesh Kakadu Hayad Nevi'echa V'karazel Zeviamar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzivot Melech Haaretz Givodo Givodo Mali Olam Misharidov Shalim Zelazeh Ayim Ekom Givodo Yumadam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Givodo Ayim Gomo Mim Gomo Live Birachamim V'yachonam Ham Yachadim Ham Yachadim Shema Erev Avoger B'chayum David Pamayim Be'ahava Shema Omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Makeinu Hu Moshiachenu V'hu Yashmi'enu Beracham Hasheni Le'einei Gochai V'alachem Le'Elohim U'v'divrei kol shecha katuv le'mar Yimloch Adonai le'olam V'hayach tziyachon V'dor v'ador hallelujah V'dor v'ador agid kol le'echa V'netzon v'shalcha nagdish Shivchacha v'hemipinam v'selam v'ehed Ki amach l'vakadosh Atah Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh
Continue on page 181, the Kaddish Shalom. Yigana Bigana Shemei Rabba. Rabba Divrachu Divra V'Yachol Tibachaychol V'Mechol V'Chayel Chabed Yisrael. B'Hagala V'Yisbad Kariv V'Yimrel. Amen. Yei Shmei Rabba Mivara. V'Yol Amala V'Yol Maya. Yidbara. Yidbara V'Yishtabach. Yidbara Nominasi V'David V'Dal. Shemei D'Kudashah. Ela Miko Bercha Davish Yada. Tzrucha David Achamata. D'Brava D'Ma V'Yimrel. Tid Gabel Sodom Vodon Choy Yisrael. Kadam Avahon Vishmaya Ve'Yimru. He's the Rabbi Shemai V'Chaim Ali Nevagad Israel Ve'Yimru. Oseh Shalom Ibrahim. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu. Ve'Aga Yisrael. Ve'Yimru. Himeru. Shalom Aleinu, Ya'kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ya'kol Yisrael, V'Yimru. Amen. May be seated, 182. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadoneinu, Ein Kemakeinu, Ein Kemashiachenu, Micheloheinu, Michadoneinu, Michemageinu, Michemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adoneinu, Nodel Emakeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adoneinu, Baruch Mageinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adoneinu, Atahu Makeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekniru, Avoteinu, Levanecha, Egedore, Kasha. Aleinu 183. Aleinu L'Shabeach Adon Nako, Aleinu L'Yosher Reshit, Shalom Asan Kikir Arason, Velo Samanu, Kirish Vevana Adama, Shalom San Kaginu Kahet, Vigor Aleinu, Kechol Hamonam, Mananu Korim, Umishachavim Molim, B'nei Eleh, Malei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Goten Shamayim ve'Yosei Haaretz, Amadam Yikarohu B'Shamayim B'Mahal, U'Min Ha'yozot, B'Gavei Meroni, Hu Eloheinu, Echad. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch ve'olam va'ed, ve'nemar, ve'haya Adonai, le'melech al kol haaretz, v'yamahu, yihei Adonai echad, L'Shemo, L'Shemo,
This week, we say Kaddish, and we hold in our hearts those whose yahrzeit it is from this congregation: Fred Fine, Sarah Basha Krongel, Sarah Z. Ferret, Rose Grant, Sonia Perlman, Yetta Richmond, David R. Savit, Abraham Greenberg, Marcia Moses, Louis Newman, Molly Rappaport, Ira Richard, Murray Rodman, Henry Cohen, Bessie Hanauer, Harry Kirsch, Naomi Bornstein Morelli, Beatrice Farman, Jerome Hirsch, David Kessler, Jenny Lipke, Luis Stevelman, Alan Heers Shap, Anna Langsam, Lily Moser, Renee Eileen Berko-Sheldon, Ann Goldstein, Louis Manowitz, Claire Novak, Robert Maya Oran, Bethold Selig, Marguerite Selig, Stanley Sokol, and Rose Stein. Stan.
Please rise. Those reciting Mourner's Cottage, observing a yard site, page 184. Thank you.
Gadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon u'v'yamechon, v'chayi d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach, me'amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yipar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, shemei d'kusha b'riachu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, Huyaseh shalom, Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen.
I invite all of you to rise now for Kiddush. B'shah miru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asad et ha-Shabbat, v'doro dabri dala, v'yeli v'nei Yisrael oti, v'olam kishesh yamim, Asa Adonai, et Hashamayim et Haaretz, Uvayom Hashvi, Shabbat v'yinafash, Hakim Birach, Unaidim HaShabbat, v'yakadeshehu, Tzvat v'ymanan v'manan rabbatai, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, Borei peri ha'gafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kedushaנו mitzvotav v'tzivanu, al mitzilat yadayim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. And now I invite Jenny Levy for some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. It's good to see everyone. It's great to welcome our chaplain, Fran Challen, back. Zev, as always, you're in rare form. And Ducky, it is so wonderful to have you back. Yay!
And let me add, Tamar as well.
I was going to say Tamar, too. We've missed both of you, and we're delighted that you're back. And this is where you need to stay. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of announcements today, so bear with me. Okay, Rabbi Jacob Blumenthal is inviting us basically to create a digital cookbook with your favorite kosher recipes for Pesach. Share your Passover recipe with us, take a picture of the recipe, write it out, and mail it to, I know you're not going to write this down, but I think this should probably be in the announcements either on the internet or in the rack on the side.
And speaking of a Pesach cookbook, you know, that's not a crummy idea. Thank you, I'll be here all afternoon.
Thank you, Zev. Okay. Just as a reminder, only those of us who are in the chapel are counted for the minyan, so if it's at all possible, please be here. However, we welcome everybody, cyberspace, the multi-purpose room, wherever you are, you're welcome. Masks are optional for those who are vaccinated. Those people who are not vaccinated must wear a mask and be seated in the multi-purpose room. Shabbat. We have a Kiddush luncheon every Shabbat. Again, you just need to RSVP so we don't get embarrassed and run out of food. So if you haven't RSVP in the future, please do so. Happy hour continues, and check your emails for further information on that. Oh, the Men's Club Yom HaShoah Memorial Service is on Sunday, April 24th at 1:30 in the multipurpose room. Please attend. What? Actually, apparently it's going to be in the chapel. Anyway, wherever it is, come. It's important. We really can't forget. We need to remember. And with all that's going on in this world today, it's so important. So please participate and please attend. Women's League Shabbat is coming up on Saturday, May 7th. If you'd like a part, please contact Tamar or Barbara Erler. Okay, we have various fundraisers that continue. We have Script. You have to buy food, so why not use Script and make something special for the temple? We get some reimbursements for that, so please participate in that. Also, we have that beautiful tablecloth in the back room, in the back of the multipurpose room. If you don't see a name of your loved one on there, why not think about putting the name on there? And contact Tamar, and she'll be more than happy to embroider a name of a loved one on there. Could be anybody, a child, a grandchild, a mother, a father, a grandparent, anybody. But it really gives you pleasure to look at that tablecloth, and you look and you say, oh, I know that person. So please. Okay, we have a fundraiser coming up, and you don't have to be Jewish on this one. This is for Rubies. It's a great little place. They have vegetarian items on there. They have Beyond Burger or different kinds of things there. You need a flyer to participate, and this fundraiser is actually going to be a week long from April 24th, is it? Yes. And so please come and participate in that. You don't have to cook if you come to that. You know what would be really great? If after the Yom HaShoah program, we could all go there together and we could have a good time and support the shul as well. What else is on here? Oh, the multipurpose room is available if you want to play games, poker, mahjong, Scrabble, all kinds of fun activities to do. Just contact Karen in the office. All these flyers can be found in the rack by the doors, so please have a look at them. Let's see, a life screening program is coming here on the 28th of this month. So please call to register for that as well. And the Misha Bayrak list is updated periodically every 6 weeks, so if we could remove somebody, that's awesome. If we have to add somebody, we will. So please just contact the office. I think that pretty much covers it. So that's it. Shabbat Shalom. Oh, Chag Sameach to everybody. Pesach is coming sooner than, really soon now. Anyway, Chag Sameach to everyone.
Yes.
You know what? I forgot something. On a personal note, I received a note, a personal note, not signed. And I would just love to thank that person for that note. So if he or she could contact me, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Next time we meet here on the Shabbat, it'll be Pesach and Shabbat. So we'll be doing Hallel and other goodies. I look forward to it. And I wish you all a pleasant week in preparing for Pesach. And let's conclude now on page 187. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Bo Yitzir Nivra L'Ein Nosa V'Chetzago Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Ki Acharei Kivod Ago Levado Himlach Nara V'Hu Hoya V'Hu Oveh V'Hu Yeh B'Tifara, V'Hu Yeh B'Tifara, V'Hu Echad, V'Yin Sheni Le'am Shilo, V'Achbira, V'Lei Reishi, V'Lei Dachli, V'Lo Ha'oz, V'Ha'Misra, V'Lo Ha'oz, V'Ha'Misra, V'Hu Eli
V'chai go'ali v'tzor chavli v'tzara v'hodesi u'manosi minad kosi b'yom ekra minad kosi b'yom V'yado Ha'giruchi B'yishad V'ya'ira V'yiruchi Yevi'yati Adonai li V'lo ira Adonai li V'lo ira Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.